Hey everyone, it's Evangeline here at eTrailer, and today we have the Thule Epos 3-bike platform rack. This is going to be a versatile bike rack that has different features so you can carry bikes of different shapes and different sizes, but it also has some other features that may look different from other bike racks. We'll take a look at all of those right here at etrailer.com. So the main thing about the Thule Epos is its versatility, where you have your mast that can be moved around on your frames or your wheels, and you also have different straps, and that way you can adjust your bikes back and forth. Whenever you carry multiple bikes, that's a lot of factors that you have to deal with. So I have 4 main factors for versatility that we're gonna go through, and that way you can see if this fits your bike, and more importantly, your bikes. So first is frames. Notice how we have a normal mountain bike frame here, but on the other side, we have our carbon fiber frame bike. So we're using the masts to secure the rear wheel on our carbon bike, and then we're securing the frame on our other bike where we don't have to be careful of that material. Now there is a downside to that though, and you can notice here in our wiggle test. So securing the rear wheel does have a little bit more movement compared to securing the frame, but later on this video, you'll see in our test course that even though there is movement, it's still secure. So when securing your bikes with that mast, you can secure it along the frame and this quadrant of the rear wheel. You cannot secure it by the handlebars or the front wheel because those are not as secure of a fit. And the next check for versatility is fenders, but that also includes other accessories like front baskets or rear panniers or bottle cages. Because you can adjust that mast up, down, left, right, and even around, you can adjust for those different accessories and make this bike rack fit you. The third check is fat bikes. So let's talk about tire sizes. The minimum tire size is going to be 16 inches. The maximum is going to be 29 inches. We have a bunch of 29ers on our bikes here. They fit perfectly fine. As for the width of the tire though, maximum is going to be 3.2, which our 3-inch tire kind of maxes that out. If you have fatter bikes though, you can get the adjustment or extra large Thule straps, and that's going to be an adapter that can accommodate for those wider wheels. Now that strap looks like it could carry those wider tires, but that's because they're made for adjusting for where you're putting your bike. So even if you have a thinner tire, maybe you have it off to the side so it has to reach further. So let's talk about wheelbase. The wheelbase maximum capacity for this bike rack is 53 inches. Technically 53 1/8 of an inch, but as you are sliding your bikes back and forth to make them fit around each other, you'll really see that wheelbase capacity come into play. Here's a good example. For our middle bike, notice how our front tire is pretty far off of the edge, but we do have a good base here towards the center of our wheel, and then the strap is holding it down in the back. So we still have a good secure fit even though it's further off. And finally, let's talk about weight capacity for your really heavy bikes. So this is gonna have a different weight capacity compared to a 2-bike platform rack because you have more weight towards the end, but it's still pretty high up there. So the total capacity is 160 pounds, but keep in mind that you want your heavier bikes closer to your vehicle and your lighter bikes further away. And with that, that's about 53 pounds per bike to make 160 pounds. If you do have electric bikes on there, if you can remove the battery, please do. Keep that inside of the car because that extra movement on the road isn't good for the battery life. Plus, you will have a slightly lighter bike that you have to lift onto the rack. And speaking of lifting, 2 things to think about. The first is you can get the add-on ramp. You can see on the sides of the bike rack where this can fit into. Unfortunately, not included with a rack like the Thule EasyFold was, but easily available here at etrailer.com. The second thing is check your ground clearance on your vehicle. Here on our vehicle, the hitch sits pretty high up, so the bike rack sits pretty high up. If your hitch sits lower to the ground, you might not even need a ramp. So some other features about this bike rack that aren't just specific to the versatility of how it works with different bikes. One of them is going to be security, and it does this in 2 different ways. The first way this does it is it secures your bikes. So rather than using a cable lock that you have to remove before you start driving, this has a lock core on the mast. So usually you just press the lever to disengage that strap. But if you don't want any other people pressing that lever easily, you can lock it here. So in concept, you press down on the lock core in order to engage it. It's easier with 2 hands, but still doable with 1 hand. So push down and turn. And now it's secure, and this lever cannot be engaged. The second is going to be your lock core on your anti-rattle lever. So this secures your bike rack to your hitch receiver. This is going to be key to lock cores on the mast, so you only need 1 key to access the whole system. This also has a tilt away feature. If you needed access into your hatch, your trunk, or needed to lower your tailgate, there's this lever here that you engage. So hold on to your bikes, step on that lever, bring this bike rack down to a tilt. And you'll do this in order to open up your hatch, open up your trunk, or lower your tailgate. Since it comes down super far, we have all that space between our door and this point in order to clear. We're not worried about our pedals or our handlebars. Some things you might be worried though is the distance or the clearance for this bottom base, since this never moves or tilts away, as well as the distance for the tilt. Let's take those measurements. So some quick measurements here is from the center of the hitch pin hole, because no matter what vehicle you have, that will be the same. We have a distance of 5 inches for this bottom part, 8 inches up here, and then 26 inches for that tilt away. So this will help you figure out if you have clearance for if your hitch is close inside of your bumper, if you have a spare tire, or if you have a large hatch. To bring it back up, you do have to hold on to your bikes for that support. So I'm not the biggest fan of that because I don't like putting that much weight on those bikes, but at the same time, with how it does tilt away, it does take off a little bit of that weight. So pros and cons to that. Another measurement here is the length this will add to your center of the hitch pin hole. Measuring from there to this foot lever, that's going to be 44 inches. If you have a small garage or need to park into a tight spot, this is going to add to the back of your vehicle and help you figure out if you have a space. This does have reflectors over here to help people see that your bike rack is extended out. And you also have a license plate relocation kit if you wanted to stay legal in certain areas. If you wanted to, you could also get the tail light kit, which requires wiring for your vehicle. But that way you can upgrade from reflectors to actual wide lights that may mimic the lights of your vehicle. So this includes the hardware to tighten your license plate down, as well as the tool. We saw those features and we saw how the bike rack carries the bikes. Now it's time to put this into action and take it out onto our test course. We're going to see how the bikes move as we go on the bumps course. So first is the regular speed bumps. You can see that up and down movement. There's a little bit of sway there, but it moves as the car moves. Then we have our alternating speed bumps, and that middle bike is holding strong, even though it's only wheel mounted. So you can see that it performs sturdily and everything stays on the hitch receiver. As I make those sharp turns, I do not notice any excessive leaning of the bike rack, although it does tilt side to side, but minimal movement overall. Now we're going to take the bikes off so we can show you the compact position. And this is a good time to talk about this process of putting the bikes on and taking them off. This does have 3 different touch points, starting with the straps. And once those straps are released, you then go over to the mast. And the thing about this is the mast can get in the way of your pedals, your handlebars get in the way of your seat. So the first time you have to load up your bikes, I do recommend having a friend help you out. Just hold one bike in place as you get the second one lined up. Because here up top, you can already see how we have two handlebars and a seat all interfering with each other. We have a very small space here that we can actually put our bike. So figuring things out the first time will take some time, but after that, if you remember where everything goes, it should be easier from there. For longevity, there are specific strap keepers for your bike rack. This goes down, and then the strap goes into its keeper for the mast. The trays also have a keeper for their straps. And once all that is secured on all the trays, the entire rack folds up. So notice how the mast might want to go down as well. So we're going to bring that back up, bring this one back up, and that's going to be the compact storage position. Now, please do not drive with it in this position. Thule does not recommend it because this is not secured and it's not rated for driving. This is going to be for how you store it in your garage or in your shed. So that's a pretty big overview of the Thule Epos, its different features, and hopefully all that information helps you decide if this is a good fit for your bikes. Now, if you're trying to compare this with some other bike rack options, for the 3-bike bike rack range that has a good weight capacity, honestly, your options are limited. But a good direct comparison would be the Ceres MHS for 3 bikes. That one is an even sturdier rack. It's larger, it's heavier, but has a dual wheel mount design that makes it faster and easier to load those bikes up. Compared to this, where you have to deal with a bunch of different levers and the mast and the straps, if you want something faster and easier to use, that might be an option for you. The downside though is it does have less weight capacity than the Epos, so that is going to be a main difference. Also, this one has wheels and is easier to cart around and store, while the MHS is humongous and takes up a lot of space in your garage or your shed. So it really is about what features do you prioritize and need, and what are you interested in but may not need as much. Now, using your bike rack though starts with putting it on your vehicle. Out of the box, it actually is all set up, which is great. It is kind of hefty, but it does have wheels. So this is how you're going to be storing it in your garage or in your shed. Unfortunately, it only has 2 wheels. So notice how I have to lift here at the end, and then I can pivot it back and forth. And if I was a taller person, you'd have to just crouch down a little to get to that handle. So not the easiest thing to do, but still slightly easier than lifting the whole thing by hand. Once you do get to your vehicle though, lift this stinger out of the way, and then you can step on this lever, and that will bring this shank down. Continue pushing down on the shank as it lifts the bike rack up, and then it snaps into place. From there, you can lift the entire system up and into your hitch receiver. It's kind of a tall hitch though, so definitely hefty to get it up in there. Once you get it close, push a stinger in, and then continue pushing the bike rack and see how it automatically engages. To tighten it down, no tools are required. You do have to get your keys though to unlock this lever so that you can lift it out of its tab. And then from here, it's going to be interesting because you can't fully turn it, so you have to push in on that lever, which helps with clearance, but does make it a little trickier sometimes to get that leverage to tighten down completely. But continue tightening down until there is no longer any wobble in that bike rack. So we have this tightened down where the bike rack no longer moves. It's just kind of a thing where you have to do that full rotation if you need to put it back into its tab. So if you have it fully tightened down at the bottom, you're just gonna have to tighten it a little bit more to get there, or just keep going until it's secure. So it's not like a super precise way of tightening down, but it works. And just like that, everything is secure. You're ready to push these trays down and load up your bikes. But this right here was a look at the Thule Epos 3-bike platform rack. My name is Evangeline, and I hope you enjoyed the journey.